Hello programmers! Today we're going to do a really fun example using TensorFlow and a neural network to classify different clothes. So it's the fashion MNIST data set. And one word of caution, this is a little bit more advanced than my normal channel content. So if you haven't ever used any neural networks or heard of neural networks before, I would definitely review an easier video before approaching this one. First, let's talk a little bit about neural networks. Human neurons collect many inputs, combine them, and decide when to fire. Neurons communicate via electrical impulses and only fire if the input exceeds a threshold. So the artificial neural networks were inspired by human neural networks. They both have inputs, they both have weighted sums, and they both have outputs. I'm going to go ahead and use Google Colab for this because all the libraries I need are installed. I've got the TensorFlow library, Matplotlib for plotting. I'll do some shortcuts for those. There are 10 different classifications in the MNIST fashion data set: t-shirts, trousers, pullovers, dresses, coats, etc. I can load in the whole data set with just one line. It's in the TensorFlow Keras data sets, and we'll load that, put it in this variable fashion MNIST, and then with machine learning, it's good to split your data and use about 80% of the data to train your model, and then you've got 20% of the data or so left that you can test and see how good your model is on data that it's never seen before. So we're going to go ahead and split that data up. And then I just arbitrarily picked the first item, and I wanted to see, well, what is the first image from this full training set? And when I print it out here in this line, it's going to be hard to look at. It's going to be a bunch of numbers for each pixel in the 28 by 28 image. And I'll print it, but then I'm going to comment this out. The easier way to look at it is through Matplotlib, and we can actually view that image. And then I want to look at which of these classes are we actually classifying this in. So this Y-train full has numbers 0 if it's a t-shirt for the first item, 1 if it's trousers, 2 if it's a pullover, etc. So let's take a look at what happens when we run this. As promised, looking at the image just at the raw numbers isn't very easy. We'll have 0 when it's a black background, so we've got a lot of zeros, and then we've got some numbers for where the image is. But the easier way to look at it is definitely going to be when we graph it, and we can see that the classification was ankle boot. So in the code, when we looked at what is the classification in the Y-train full for my item number 0, it must have given ankle boot, which is 9. Our numbers start at 0, 1, 2, etc. So it had a 9. I'm going to go ahead and print out the 9th class name, which is ankle boot, along with that picture. We can go ahead and change the item number and see, well, what's the second image in this data set? I don't want to see every individual pixel, so I'm going to comment that out and run it again. Now we've got a t-shirt and a top. Cool. Let's try one more. I don't know why, I just find this so fascinating just to look at the individual images. This one is a t-shirt or a top. Now when we did look at the individual pixel numbers, we got numbers from 0 to 255. It's going to be easier to normalize this and put everything in a range of 0 to 1. So that's going to be the first thing I'm going to do. So to normalize those and bring them into a range of 0 to 1, that'll work better for our neural network, I'm going to take all the items. I can do this on all the values at the same time and divide them all by 255. It's good to have, I think I've got a typo here. It's good to have repeatable results. So when you run this a different time, a different day or whatever, or someone else runs the same program, you want them to get the same exact results. So we can set the seed for the random number generator here. And then let's talk through the different lines to create the model. So here's our model variable. I'm going to do a sequential neural network where we're going to have different layers. We're going to start out with our input layer, and I said the images were 28 by 28, so that is the shape that we've got in here for our input. We're going to flatten them So instead of thinking of them as 28 by 28, think of them as a 1D array instead of a 2D array, where 28 times 28 is 784. So this will flatten each image into just a single one-dimensional array. There are no parameters on that, so that the input is the input. We're not doing anything with that yet to change it. But on the next layer, this is a common funnel shape that you'll see with a lot of neural networks, where you start with a big number, and then you get to a smaller number, and then a smaller number, and a smaller number. And the last layer, it makes sense that we've got 10 here as the number of neurons for that layer, because there's 10 different clothing types, the shirts, the trousers, the pants, etc. We're classifying into 10 different groups there. So how does it come up with the number of parameters? Well, if our layer, the flattened layer, has 784 different values, and we're multiplying that by 300, here there's also a bias that is an extra 300 values. So we do that math, and that's where we come up with 235,500. And then we move on to the next layer. Same kind of thing. We've got 300 times 100, and then we have an extra bias of another 100, so add 100, and that's where you get this number of parameters. The next one, 100 times 10 plus an extra 10 for the bias, that's where we get the number of parameters for that layer. Add all those together, and that's the total parameters. Let's talk more about that ReLU function that we're using in the neural network. That's short for rectified linear unit activation. It's a mathematical function that will give you the maximum between 0 and your value of x. So if it's something that's a negative number, you're going to get 0. If it's anything above 0, you're going to get the actual x value that you passed into the function. So it's just a way to prevent negative values. You'll notice that the softmax activation function is used, and let me explain that a little bit. At the end of our classification of an image, we're going to get a bunch of raw scores, 10 of them, one for each of the clothing items, and if you look through here, you can figure out, oh, maybe the sneakers is pretty high, the ankle boots is almost as high, but these scores aren't probabilities, they aren't percentages, and they're not even in the same range of like 0 to 1. So what the softmax activation function is going to do, we're going to take e, roughly 2.7, to the power of whatever that raw score was. And what this does is the large numbers grow large more quickly, and the small ones stay pretty small. So we can see our large number sneakers jumped all the way up to 90, and then the smaller ones like 0.2 is still pretty small compared to the 90. And there's one more step, this column here with e to the power of whatever the raw score was, that's the e to the zi. We're going to divide that by the sum of all of these e to the power of zi values, and then we're going to get something that if you add them all together, it's going to be exactly 1. And now we've got each of these is a probability between 0 and 1, so there's only a 6% probability that this item is a t-shirt, but there's a 67% probability that it's a sneaker, and it actually ends up being a sneaker when we look at the picture. And now let's go ahead and compile this model, and then we can fit the model with our training data. 30 epochs, we're going to run through all of our training data 30 times. Each time through it should get a little bit better, and then we will validate it to tell how good it's getting by using the test data instead. So this could take a bit of time. So in the output, we have the different epochs, and we see the accuracy of our model. 77% is not bad to start out with. The loss, the val accuracy and val loss, and that is short for validation. The first two numbers that we get are based on our training data. So how accurate is our model at predicting the results of the training data? And then the next two values are the test data. So in the beginning, both of these are going to get better and better. So we see that our accuracy is getting better on the training data and the test data. And then if you notice that they start to deviate, that if we look at how it's performing on the test data, it's not actually doing as well as it claims to be doing on the training data. So that, it's getting up past 90%, but over here we've kind of hit a point where we're not really improving much past the 88%. When I changed it to 60 epochs instead of 30 epochs, then it claimed that the accuracy was 95.5% with a very small loss. But in reality, if you looked at the data it hadn't seen before, the testing data, then we're still 88.9%. So this would be an example of how you would tell something is overfitting. Well, that was fun enough, but I think what the real fun is adding your own images and seeing how well the model does with those images. Normally I put all my import statements at the top, but I just pasted, here's the new code that I added to use my own image and display it and classify it with the model. So I'm going to use this load image, and I'm going to need to switch the image to an array. I've also pulled in NumPy. So first of all, the image, I've got an image of a lab code, and in Google Colab you can go to the folder and you can upload it if it's not there. I did it right before I started filming this video, and if I click on that I could take a look at the lab code. It's actually an emoji that I blew up a little bit. And I wanted to see how does it do it classifying that. So we'll load that in, and the format it's loaded in isn't quite what we want. It looks mostly black and white, but let's just make sure that we're in grayscale. And we've got our 28 by 28 image. Let me close this so we can see more of the code. We're going to convert it to an array, and then we want to remove the channel dimension. The channel is just set to 1. We're on grayscale, so it's just saying how much light there is versus dark. Let's remove that so we've got 28 by 28. We can do that with the squeeze function. And then we're going to normalize, just like we did with the testing and the training data, and divide by 255. So we'll end up getting values between 0 and 1. And then we're going to add a batch dimension. There is only one image, but the model has the ability to classify hundreds of images, dozens of images at the same time. So we have to add this because the model's expecting this dimension, and this will tell us how many images we've got here. And then we'll go ahead and use our model to make a prediction and pass in that image array. Go ahead and look at what it's returning as the predicted class. So we're going to look at the maximum argument out of all the probabilities here. We could even print what this Y probability is, and then we'll print our predicted class, what the word is that describes that class, whether it's t-shirt, trousers, whatever. We'll go ahead and show the image that it loaded in. All right, fun. I'll go ahead and run this, and I'll pause it while it's training. I switched it just to 10 epochs so it would train a little bit faster. And remember that last layer of our model was that's the prediction. That's going to be our dense layer with 10 and the activation function softmax. Well, if we print out those predictions, there's 10 different predictions. So it's very close to 0 as far as being a shirt, very close to 0 as far as being trousers, etc. Pretty close to 0, pretty close to 0. Well, the best prediction right here is clearly bigger than the other numbers. We've got the highest prediction is that it is this 5th. I had quite a lot of fun testing this on my own images. I started with an emoji blown up really big of a lab coat, and it did correctly predict that that was a coat. Then I had this image of a Barbie doll, and I took out the Barbie part and left the dress, and it did correctly classify this as a dress. I took a picture of my shoe, and it incorrectly classified it as a bag. You could kind of imagine that would be the handle of a purse or something. So it's not perfect, but it's pretty cool. I tried some sweatpants, and it classified them as trousers. I tried this kind of baggy tank top, and it classified it as a bag. So not perfect, but for such a small data set, it's quite remarkable that it does such a good job classifying different articles of clothing. I hope you enjoyed the video. Happy programming!